Welcome to Rugby From The Stands, the podcast where passion for rugby takes center stage. I'm Shaad, a huge rugby fan, and each week I'll be bringing you the latest insights, stories, and fan perspectives from the world of rugby. Whether you're at the game or watching from home, this is your front row seat to all things rugby. Let's dive in. So, we've had an incredible July with lots of amazing rugby played. We had the Springboks playing Italy to a test and also against Georgia. They tested quite a few different combinations across their massive squad, and obviously continues to tinker his team, trying to find the best combinations, and also trying to test out some unique plays that Tony Brown and the coaching staff have cooked up. They're looking pretty sleek, looking pretty scary. I think the downside for the Springboks is probably going to be the fact that the quality of the opposition that they played against in July might not be massively intense. Even the game against the Barbarians, the games against the Georgians and the Italians weren't as crazy intense and competitive. But, South Africa can only play what's in front of them. And honestly, they're looking pretty sleek. They're the most well balanced team out of all the teams, the least amount of weaknesses, I would say. Man, their backs are super fast. If they need to play that game of tempo, they absolutely can. And up front, they can just smash you with their massive forwards. And obviously, scrum time, they love that. So they are, I would say, the standard bearer. They're the strongest out of the entire lot. And then we obviously saw the All Blacks taking on a weakened French side. Lots of controversy over that. But I thought that it was a bit of warm up for the All Blacks to start their campaign for season 2025. First game, obviously, you can see that they were very, very rusty. New combinations. You can see that they really wanted to play with a lot of tempo. They did dominate in how they played, but their defense wasn't that great in that first test. The fact that France scored, 27, 29 points? Can't remember exactly how much, but the fact that they scored that amount of points shows that there was still a lack of cohesion. All the players coming back from Super Rugby, from different teams, being put together, they didn't look that sharp. Come the second test, man, that first half in that second test was almost they played to perfection. That was incredible. But then again, second half, yeah, they couldn't keep up that intensity and that momentum. And that's something that obviously the coaching staff in the New Zealand camp will need to work on because, rugby is an 80-minute game. You can't play rugby for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and even for 79 minutes, as the Wallabies saw. You got to play 80 minutes, man. Great teams, all they need is, mistake and they will pounce at it. So it will be great to see an All Blacks performance for 80 minutes. And that's something we haven't seen yet. Third test, the fans have been asking for the All Blacks to test out, give an opportunity for youngsters, and they did. I don't think that we've seen the All Blacks make so many changes for a test. And, it was great to see a lot of the newer guys get an opportunity to play and showcase what they've got to offer. France, I think they probably played their strongest team in that third test, and so it wasn't an easy game by any means. And yet, New Zealand somehow found a way to win. Kudos to them. Jordy Barrett was incredible, came in at the right time, gave a little bit of, class and calmness when he came out of the field. But we also saw some of the youngsters also kind of do their showcasing their capabilities as well. Again, I thought for the All Blacks, that third test was, was a great baptism of fire for the newer players. So I think New Zealand are, I think they're in a decent space. They're definitely not perfect by any means, or at least close to it. But I do like the intent that they're trying to play with. They're trying to play with a lot of tempo, a lot of ball in play. And I think the only challenge is if they are going to go with that approach, execution needs to be almost on point. And I kind of feel, and I'm a bit worried about that, because if your execution isn't on point, especially if you're playing against teams like Argentina and Springboks, who have incredible incredible line speed, and B, incredible backs who can pounce on those mistakes, and all that hard work basically will go to waste. So hopefully the All Blacks can play a high tempo game, but also ensure that execution is flawless. And hopefully we will see a good performance in Argentina. Unfortunately, they seem to be plagued with a lot of injuries. And so tomorrow, Scott Robertson is due to announce his squad for the Rugby Championship, and it's going to be interesting to see who he goes with. There's probably going to be a lot of new additions into the side. I just saw that Cam Roigard is not going to be playing, which is a huge, huge loss for the All Blacks. He is pivotal for providing that tempo. I mean, I love Cortez Ratima. I'm a huge Chiefs fan. I love the Cortez Ratima, Damien McKenzie combination, but at test level, I still worry about Cortez's ability to get quick ball. Somehow he seems to be slow at ruck time, and it seems like opposition can easily rattle him. So I really hope he'll be able to fix that in his game. Um, they could potentially include Finlay Christie. I thought he played really well in the Super Rugby tournament this year, but last year he was quite slow to the ruck as well. Someone that I'm really excited to see is potentially Kyle Preston from the Crusaders. He played really well at Super Rugby, but at the same time, look, Cortez Ratima was really good at Super Rugby level as well, but test level is a different beast. So I am a little bit worried about stock for the All Blacks. So that's a huge dent for the All Blacks not having Cam Roigard start in Argentina. So yeah, there's a lot of injury issues. I don't know whether Tupou Vaa'i will play. Captain Scott Barrett will be ready. Gordon Barrett has a hand injury. Tyrell Lomax, I really hope he'll be back for the games against Springboks. Yeah, lots of question marks, man. I don't know. The All Blacks seem to be, getting injured. So that's there. Let's see. The Wallabies, man, they have exceeded expectations, at least for me. I was really heartbroken when they lost the second test. I'm not even a Wallabies fan, to be honest. I don't even generally I don't even like Australia. Whether it's even in other sports, but really, we really want a strong Australia. I grew up idolizing guys like David Campese, Tim Horan, John Eales, these guys, George Gregan, Sterling Mortlock, uh, all these guys, Stephen Larkham, these are guys that grew up really idolizing. And they're two times world champions, the first country to do so. And it's really sad if rugby union just dies in Australia. I think Australia as a nation should really step back and think about, look, I know NRL is big, but look, NRL isn't big around the world. And, other than cricket, which doesn't have the number of, teams playing at test level, I think rugby has more teams playing at test level. So, it would be a shame if rugby couldn't get the necessary eyeballs in Australia, and I hope they'll be able to sort things out. Hopefully this Lions tour has done that for them. It would have been amazing if we could go to a third decider and the officials, at least, in my books, I wished the referee who was making that decision in that last minute had thought about the bigger picture. Because honestly, if he did disallow that try, I don't think a lot of people would have gotten pissed off about it. I think a lot of people would have looked at the replay and gone, yep, head contact, or at least, a neck contact above the shoulder contact. That's a penalty, and we're going into a decider. And that third test would have been huge, huge for Australian rugby, huge for viewership around the world. It would have just been amazing for rugby in general. And rugby obviously has an issue of attracting viewerships and eyeballs. And I thought that was a missed opportunity. But at the same time, I also have to admit, if you're a referee, you're not going to referee a game based on the bigger picture of rugby. That's not their job. They just have to referee, what's in front of them. To be fair, fans have been asking for rugby to be more free flowing, less TMO involvement. So for the referee to, back his gut feel and just, go with what he saw, kudos to him too. It would have been, just from a marketing standpoint, I thought that would have been more impactful if we went for a decider. And in the end, it was a kind of a dead rubber. You could see that the Aussies obviously wanted to win that third test, and you can see that the Lions probably partied a little bit too hard over the last week, and they didn't really show up, didn't really show any fight. Because, mentally it's really hard to get to a dark place to kind of like really, push yourself to win. So I felt like it was clear that the Aussies obviously had, chip on their shoulder, wanted to really prove a point, win that third test, which I feel like the Lions didn't show. But having said that, there was a lot of niggle, lots of pushing, shoving, hello, how are yous being exchanged during the game. And you could see, like, Owen Farrell, for example, was having a conversation with Swali'i, and that was also very entertaining to watch. And I also liked that the referee didn't like stop that. I thought that was really good of him to just let them get it out of the system. And obviously he did have that conversation with the captains to say, look, sort your guys out. Next one's going to be a yellow. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I mean, fans love that kind of stuff. I don't think they should take that out of a game just yet. Having a bit of niggle is good, and for the excitement. Obviously, you don't want a situation where someone's headbutting someone or punching someone in the face. And that stuff obviously is a clear red card. I thought whatever that they had was actually quite entertaining. So a part of me obviously is sad that the Wallabies couldn't win the second test. But if you think about it from purely a rugby perspective, look, they had a huge lead, right? 23-5 or whatever that was, 24-5. I can't remember exactly. But to let the Lions come back from such a huge lead just goes to show the class of the Lions. Like, they had some incredible players. And that was amazing result for them to win it literally at the very last minute. So fair play. It was very well done for men. The positive side, the Wallabies can use this as their warm up for the Rugby Championship. And man, if they can continue to play the way they're playing, especially in the way they played in the second test and the third test, I reckon they're going to be very, very competitive. And I'm really excited to see how their game against the Springboks is, going to pan out. I think the first game is going to be at altitude. Usually the Springboks generally tend to set up the first games against visiting teams at altitude, and that's going to be tough. And also I think the crowd also are quite an antagonistic bunch. So, it's going to be hard traveling there. But I think if they play to their potential, I think Australia can potentially make an upset, because they've got some excellent preparation under some serious intensity, and they played really well. I think the Springboks, like I said, one of the key challenges for them is going to be fronting up against stronger teams, but with crazy amount of intensity, which I don't think the Springboks were tested with. The games against the Barbarians was not that high intensive. Georgia was interesting, and so was Italy. Italy's not a weak team, to be fair. They're very strong, but I don't think they were able to put the Springboks under a lot of pressure. Although the rolling maul seemed like a possible weapon against the Springboks, the Georgians mauled against them and scored as well. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think the tests against Springboks in South Africa by the Thursday. RGs versus the All Blacks is going to be an interesting one as well. I think it's hard to say where the Springboks stand and where the All Blacks stand right now, because again, the All Blacks played against a weakened French team. Yes, this French team is incredibly exciting. Some of the best 14 players. But at the end of the day, most of them didn't have a lot of test caps. Most of them were like single digit test caps. So it's hard to gauge where this All Blacks team really stand. And then you've got South Africa. And again, the opposition that they played against weren't the strongest. So yes, whenever we watched them, they were dominant. They were scary. They looked like world champions. But you've got question marks about, has there been a team good enough to kind of showcase some form of weakness? I don't think anyone has. Obviously, they have. I mean, again, it's not their fault. The fixtures are set up that way. So it's going to be interesting. I think the next couple of weeks are going to tell us, or at least August is going to tell us, first round of the Rugby Championship games are going to tell us where South Africa stand and where New Zealand stand. So I'm really excited to see how that pans out. Argentina versus All Blacks. I mean, the RGs, I don't know, man. They've got a way of beating the All Blacks. and they're playing at home, and so they are going to be dangerous. And with the All Blacks having so many injuries, I'm not 100% convinced that they are going in as major favorites. Obviously, the All Blacks will always be favorites. They're playing against a team like Argentina, but honestly, Argentina have played some really good uh, rugby against the All Blacks over the past, you know, years. And a technically a second string Argentinian team beat the Lions, albeit it was the first game that the Lions had played. But England played the Argentinians in July, and they won that series. So I think Scott Robertson and his coaching staff might be closely watching the tapes to see how did Steve Borthwick's men, without some of their key players playing for the Lions, how did they overcome the Los Pumas? And that's going to be quite interesting to see how the All Blacks will be playing. But yeah, on paper, All Blacks are obviously favorites against the Argentinians. But man, I'm just never 100% sure with the Argentinians, and I'm also not 100% sure with the All Blacks. Like sometimes, the like I said before, they just can't seem to maintain the intensity throughout 80 minutes. And also, you just don't know which All Blacks team shows up. Sometimes they are looking, really sharp and sleek and beautiful to watch. And then all of a sudden, sometimes there's a team that just tends to fall apart under pressure. So I hope this year they'll be able to, fix all of that and give a really good 80-minute performance. Man, this is probably going to be one of the most closely fought rugby championships that we've seen in a long time, and I'm really excited about it. I'd say the Springboks are clearly the favorites to win it. Let's see how they go in the first round. Really excited to see what Razor's gonna announce tomorrow in terms of the squad for the rugby championship for the All Blacks. And yeah, there's a lot more that we can discuss and talk about. I just wanted to share my preamble, my thoughts just before the tournament starts. And if you've got any perspectives just before the rugby championship, do feel free to share. Obviously, like and subscribe. This is my first video. I'm just a regular dude who loves rugby, just talking about it, and I would love to hear your thoughts and want to be part of the community. So get involved, share your comments, and share this with any of your friends who love rugby as well. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Ciao.